Another McLaren win, followed by controversy just after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix on Sunday. Many people on the internet had started to point out that the rear wing of the McLaren, specifically of Oscar Piastri, at high speeds looked like it had pretty significant flexing, as well as some flexing that appeared to look like a mini DRS type effect, where the rear wing flap opened up just a bit on both of the edges. So we're going to go over that today, see is it legal and what's going to be done about it. Could there possibly be even a disqualification for the race for McLaren? Let's start with this video here that's going to give you a better idea of what it actually looks like in practice. As you can see, they're going to go around the last couple of slow corners of the course and then head out to that main straightaway. That's, a couple of high-speed corners followed by the main straight. And without even pointing it out first, just take a look at the rear wing and see if you maybe tell what's going on here. Keep a look at the size. So it's this size now, and then watch as they start to speed up.
0.6.
Looks quite a bit smaller here. And this little end right here is picking up a tad bit. It's raised up above here. So we're just gonna cut from here back to the slow speed corner, but take a look right here. It's hard to tell, but the rear wing is lifting up. The rear wing on both sides is lifting up just a bit over this outer edge, and the actual distance here is much smaller. So let's cut back really quick in real time. Watch how much that raises up and then raises down. Keep an eye right here and right at the top here. Quite a bit of flexing. Quite a bit of flexing. So the question is it legal? And the answer is, to this point, yes, because the FIA has obviously done nothing about it. Will there be an investigation? I would say most likely, but I don't think there's been an official investigation started yet. Um, and we can take a closer look here. This is like an actual graphic breakdown, redesign of what it looks like. And as you can see, I can't really zoom in much more, but this little flap right here, I mean, this is the DRS flap. So once they actually have DRS, this entire piece would open up, and that's going to activate the DRS and let all the airflow through here. What this is, though, this is the slow speed, so the corners, it's not going to have that DRS effect. And then as soon as they get into that straight line speed, the high speed, it picks up just a little bit here, and that's going to allow the airflow to go straight through here and have a little bit less drag on this rear wing, which appeared to be the difference in the race from Piastri in first with clear air and no DRS to Leclerc behind him that was constantly at about a 6/10 gap going into that long straightaway that should have been enough, should have been close enough to overtake with DRS and Piastri not having it in front, but he could just never seem to get there. And it was weird because even on the commentary, it just seemed like every time we would go around to that part in the circuit, it was like, all right, here we go. Here we go. He's going to try to pass him again. Up, and he didn't get past. So it was very weird during the race because usually in that situation, when somebody's closing on you, they have good enough pace and they're right on you like that, and they have that type of gap there. It's usually enough to get around it going into turn one, but he just couldn't get there. So that has raised a lot of controversy now, and here's another representation of it. Like I'm saying, the different sizing as well. As you can see in that high speed, it's much lower and it's flexed down. Again, higher up's going to be more drag, more air directly hitting this rear wing and going up over it. The lower here, the flexing down is going to allow for less drag as well as more airflow through this duct. You can see this is nice and tight, high up. This opens up quite a bit here. You get much more airflow as well as the less drag on the height. So it is a pretty significant improvement, I guess you could say. As long as it's not illegal, I mean, really, it's just great innovation at that point. It's made quite the difference, and you could see it's essentially allowed Piastri to keep the lead the entire time with no DRS, and I doubt he was even emptying his battery every time. I'm not really sure, but it didn't seem like he had to try that hard to stay ahead. It didn't seem like he even had to fight very many times. And this is likely what it was due to. So another comparison. This is the top three teams: the Red Bull on the bottom, the Ferrari in the middle, and the McLaren on top. Red Bull, I think, was just running a little bit higher downforce rear wing anyway. It's a little bit thicker in general, but this is the side by side of when they are at low speed and high speed. The Red Bull looks pretty much exactly the same. Little bit of distance for the Ferrari, and then quite a bit more for the McLaren. Ferrari does have quite a bit still too, and I think Red Bull was just running a bit bigger rear wing because they like having the DRS efficiency. They've been opting for that, which, as you can see here, they have the most DRS speed added. So they've always been, I think, the top of the DRS efficiency. Ferrari in second, the McLaren in third. But McLaren goes up less with the DRS. But if you think you're going to be leading the race the whole time and you're Piastri and you qualify first, or you're McLaren going into qualifying into Parc Ferme and saying we're probably going to be 1-2 or 1-3 or somewhere in that top three, let's run this setup where we don't really need to prioritize the DRS and instead we can have constant DRS essentially on the straightaways. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. My personal opinion, I don't think anything's going to be done about it. I think they're going to say the same thing they did with the front wing, and they're going to say, "Oh, we'll have to leave it until next year or whatever," and then just everybody else is going to have to catch up and deal with it. But that is going to make things really interesting for the rest of the year, knowing that they have that essentially DRS constantly. Maybe it's not as big of an effect, but as you can see in the graphic, I mean, it was 280 to 320. I mean, that's massive. That's DRS. So yeah, it was really weird in real time watching the race and seeing Leclerc with DRS every time storming up, storming up, storming up, and it was just never enough by the end of the straightaway. And in recent years, it would have been enough. So it's interesting. I mean, you could say that McLaren have like cheated with the front wing and the rear wing now, and they're like, doing shortcuts or whatever. But realistically, I'm sure every team tries to do this. I think that the goal of their development is probably to stretch the absolute limit of what's legal and probably to force things to become illegal, like this mini DRS here, because that is kind of ridiculous that that's legal. My personal opinion, that should not be legal. There should be no, if that's how the gap looks normally at normal corners, this should not be happening. But if it's within the rules now, then it's just good innovation and it's good on them for doing it, and bad on Red Bull and any other top teams for not being able to keep up with it and find the same little pieces to add time. So yeah, it's going to be interesting next week and moving forward on these courses where they're probably going to be in the lead, and I guess we'll see. It's going to be a trend now. I think that we're going to see teams trying to catch up to McLarens on straightaways and just not being able to with DRS. So we're going to see moving forward. I think McLaren's pretty much a shoe in to win the constructors at this point, and they still have a chance for Lando to win the drivers' championship if they don't just don't completely keep ruining it. Obviously, last weekend was just a really weird coincidence, and that wasn't really their fault at all. But yeah, that's it. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe. I'll be back this week previewing the Singapore Grand Prix and growing over going over any more news about this and any other updates. Peace.